Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the live morning show, presented as always by Don Bullock Chevrolet. Before we introduce our guests, don't forget that this segment is brought to you by Church on the Rise, and June is movie month. Each Sunday, Pastor Richard Gerganis is going to show clips from blockbuster movies such as Creed, Blindside, Bruce Almighty, and Inside Out, turning them into modern-day parables to teach valuable spiritual lessons. Also, this Sunday is going to be Family Day with Webby's Shaved Ice and Popcorn. Church on the Rise meets at 3 different locations and 3 different times to serve you. The Nashville campus meets at 9:20 on West Washington Street, the North Main campus at 10:20 on Bishop Road right across from Wesleyan College, and the South campus on Davis Street at 12:30. Church on the Rise offers high contemporary worship, Bible teaching, strong student and children's ministry, small groups for discipleship and relationship building. Come join us this Sunday. You can also visit them at churchontherise.org for more information and a list of all of their events.
All right. Well, we have our special guest this morning, Ken Hunter, who is the budget administrator for the City of Rocky Mount. Is that the correct title?
Well, it's budget and evaluation manager.
That's too many words.
Budget manager's fine. I mean,
there you go.
All right.
But my daughter has figured it out, so she's gotten it. So.
But basically, you're the guy that puts the numbers together that's going to fund the operations of the city.
That is correct. By North Carolina law, and also by our city charter, the city manager technically is the party responsible for preparing the budget, and he delegates most of those responsibilities to me in terms of actually preparing the budget, which we presented to City Council last Tuesday. We actually gave it to them a week before. We typically, by our policies, we try to present it to them a week before. The state actually requires that we present the budget to the City Council by June 1st. So the date that we actually did the formal presentation on May 31st was just right in time.
Yeah, the last day you had to do it.
Yeah. So that gives you a little bit of time to make some tweaks, I guess, or?
Well, it's all done in the matter of trying to be transparent and trying to give the council the time that they need to review the budget, as well as give the public the opportunity that they need to also review it, and if they have any input. And their opportunity to have input will actually be this coming Monday night during the City Council meeting. At 7 p.m. is when we will have the public hearing on the budget. So that's the opportunity for the public to come, and if they have any comments that they want to make. And we'll be going over some of the pieces of the budget here on the screen. But if anybody wants to actually look at the budget, they can go to the city clerk's office. There's a copy there. They can also go online to rockymountnc.gov. If you go to the website, our relatively new website, you go to click on the government tab. It'll bring down a couple of page listings. One is for the budget office, and then from there they can go and learn about the budget and actually get a chance to see the document.
Let me ask you a quick question. You mentioned the public can come on Monday night. In years past, have you found that is more of the people that come and express views? Are they knowledgeable already of the budget and have suggestions, or are they coming more for informational purposes to kind of learn more?
Well, I think we don't really spend a lot of time during the public hearing talking about the budget. It's more for them, if they've had an opportunity to either review the budget or if they are looking for something in particular to be in the budget, that's typically why they come. What I will say is this community in general, there's not a lot of action that happens on public hearing nights. This is my 10th budget for the City of Rocky Mount, which means I've known you guys for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what I will tell you is the city, in general, our public hearings are pretty short. Our process is actually, I would say, pretty truncated. It's very efficient in terms of the time that we spend with council and the time that we also spend with the public, but at the same time, all the information is available for the people to review if they want.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, so let's kind of get into setting up the framework of what the budget is and what it's developed for in the city. What is all-encompassing in this budget?
Well, North Carolina and local government in particular use a concept known as fund accounting, where the City of Rocky Mount is responsible for a lot of different services, many of which are associated with any local government that you would have, any municipal government, and some of which are a little more specialized, such as the utility services we provide. And in order to properly manage those and to treat them as they should be for financial purposes, they're each kept into separate funds. And the adopted budget for the city oversees actually 10 different city funds. The general government is mostly handled in what's known as the general fund. And that's the one that oversees police, fire, public works, parks and recreation. Then you have a couple of smaller funds, one specifically for our emergency telephone operations. We received money from the state of North Carolina. Back about a decade ago, each community had their own E911 tax. The states, as a part of telecommunications reform, decided to just make it one tax, and they became the entity responsible for distributing the tax.
So the state collects it and then distributes it.
Right, and they're very specific about what you can use it for, too. They make it, in reality, what we get in those revenues is not enough to cover our responsibilities for E911. In part because of the way it's structured, also because of the cost of hiring telecommunicators. They pretty much only allow you to use it for the equipment as well as anything tied to like maintaining the system. Dispatch operators, you're actually responsible. Pretty much the city has to pay for the dispatch operators.
So the employees that run E911 are city employees. The equipment is essentially funded by the state.
It's all city. It's all city, but you're correct. It's like also the contracts for telephone service and those type of things we can spend some money on. And of course, the other challenge we've had with E911 is because of the way in which people are changing their use of communications, and the fact that more people are going away from landline communications to cellular.
Right.
They're not having two phones anymore. That's reduced the revenue, and it's actually cut the revenue that we're receiving from the state fund now.
Are there adjustments made to counter that, or is that just something that you're like, hey, you know, that's just the society we live in now, just move on to something?
What it requires us to do when we're preparing the budget is it requires us to be realistic about what we can and can't pay for. And it's the same issue that we run into with another fund that we have that's separate called the PAL bill, which is the state allocation that we receive as a municipality for road maintenance or for surface transportation maintenance. And basically because of the fact that it's dependent upon gas tax revenues and car registration fees when you purchase your vehicle, it is very limited, and it hasn't grown in the last decade for us. And part of that's because the overall statewide revenue hasn't grown much from those two sources, but also because due to the way that the population shift has occurred, where there's been more growth than we've seen, more growth in other areas with respect to population and the amount of mileage that they are maintaining. Our share of the total pie reduces as a result of that. So if it only goes up a little bit, it really doesn't. We don't really see any of that growth.
On new car registration, and this is sometimes things that people just don't think about or may not aware of. But with car registration, and we'll get to the sticker conversation a little bit as well. That's based on your residence. So if you are in a residence that's in the city limits, then you would be assessed for that.
That's great. Based on the address to which the car is registered. For most residential customers, it's a residence. Obviously, there are businesses that register cars. So it would be the place of business by which that title.
So wherever the address is, that it's insured and it's residents of that vehicle for ownership.
That's correct.
All right. So if you live in the city of Rocky Mount, then you buy a car from a say Don Bullock Chevrolet, and you get taxed on that car for state fees and so forth. There's a tax in there that includes a portion of it that would then come back to the city of Rocky Mount that goes into that maintenance fund.
Right. Well, it doesn't go in the maintenance fund yet.
Okay.
Well, yes, when a car is purchased, you're correct. When a car is purchased, you're correct. But it's not. But it's actually not based. But that fee actually doesn't come to us based on. When you purchase the car, that one's not based on residence. I thought you were talking about the annual fee.
Okay.
When you pay it at the time, it actually goes into a statewide pool, and then it is reallocated on a formula based on two factors.
Okay.
One is your population, and the other one is the number of miles that you have that you maintain.
Okay.
And it's basically pro rata.
Right. So that's when you purchase the car. Now the sticker, which is what you were talking about, is based on your residence.
That's correct.
Okay. And that's a different fee, and we're going to get into that as
Absolutely.
well. I just want to kind of clarify where the money's come from. Now, the city of Rocky Mount is I won't say unique, but is a different city in that we do have our own utilities. Therefore, the city is also billing for revenue and operations that many other cities, like, say, Raleigh, does not. Raleigh may have sanitation, but they don't have power and water and so forth.
Well, they have water and sewer.
But it's not exactly the same thing in terms of you're looking at, say, $80 to $100 a month for a water bill versus $200, $300, $400 a month for utility bills.
There is some differences, and like what I will tell you right now, let's just to show you this number here. This is the proposed budget for the city, and as you can see there, it's about $205.4 million.
Wow.
And that's actually about a 2.5% decrease.
Really?
And the reason for that decrease is that last year, we, as you all know, late summer, we implemented some significant changes to our electric and gas rates. If you were to take the electric and gas rates the total budget, the electric and gas rates represent just about 50% of that total budget.
Right.
And the reason why is because we do not produce electricity and we do not produce natural gas. We purchase them. It used to be that we, of course, purchase electricity through our power agency agreement where we owned a share of a couple of power plants. And then gas we purchase on the open market. We buy it as a tradable commodity,
right.
and we try to do our best to buy it as a future with respect to having it so that we can try to hedge on price. Of course, what happened last summer was that Duke Power purchased the power agency's assets with respect to production and transmission. So that allowed us to reduce our wholesale costs because it required a significant portion of the debt that we had on those, which had been increasing our wholesale cost to a large extent.
And that allowed y'all to reduce the delivery cost to the consumers of Rocky Mount by an average of 14%.
That is correct, and that's where we saw those retail rate reductions. We also, at the same time we did that, we also reviewed our gas operations. And because of the fact that there's now kind of been this long-term situation where natural gas prices have been typically less than $3 a decatherm, even in some cases lower than $2 a decatherm.
Whoa, what's a decatherm?
Decatherm is basically 10 therms or 10 units of gas.
Okay.
I probably shouldn't have said that, but when it is the unit by which gas is bought on the
so
commodities
instead of a gallon
market.
of gasoline in our car, this is the therm of energy that you're selling or providing to the consumer.
It's based on the heat value in the old BTUs, British thermal units, like when you buy a heater, how it measures that. But the reality is that we purchased gas. We purchased gas as a commodity. Well, because those prices have gone down, we restructured our rates also in gas to reflect those lower prices.
Right.
And so, as a result of that, we also reduced our budgets from the standpoint of what we were having to purchase, both in gas and electric, and then correspondingly reduced our revenue budgets with respect to the revenues that we anticipated to collect. So overall, while the condition of our funds remained the same in terms of making sure that we had the money to provide the services tied to the services we're responsible for in terms of electric and gas as well as other utilities, the actual total budget reduced. Now, in the electric fund, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, it's not going down entirely because in this upcoming fiscal year budget, we are recommending some capital improvements.
Okay.
And the $6 million of that is finance capital improvements.
Again, for folks, what is a capital improvement? That is basically structural
Yes,
improvements?
typically what we're talking about, and particularly when it comes to utilities, it's infrastructure improvements.
Okay.
In the case of the electric fund, what we're recommending, first of all, is that we are trying to finish up the work that we've been doing to our substations. Most of our substations throughout the city were built over 50 years ago.
Okay.
They were built back during the industrial time.
Now, the city owns these substations.
Yes, they do.
Correct?
These are distribution substations.
So again, that's different than, if you live in Nash County and get your power from Duke. Duke owns those as part of their distribution. The city actually owns the substations in the city footprint.
That's correct. Basically, everything is like what we would, if you think about it, kind of like in a residential standpoint. There are 2 point of delivery stations now, one of which is down off Old Mill Road, the other one off of Grayson near where North Green is. And everything, once the power goes into those 2 point of delivery stations, everything beyond that the city owns.
Right.
Okay.
So basically everything, those transmission lines are owned by Duke.
Right.
But once it comes to that transmission line, once it hits there, it's our responsibility.
Gotcha.
And the reason we have the second point of delivery now is to make sure that we have that redundancy with respect to delivery of power. If you only got one inline coming in and something happens, like a squirrel, many years ago, a squirrel gets in the...
And it was not that long ago. Rich Worcester, it was last summer, spring, where we had a 4-hour outage for basically half the southern half of the city.
Yeah.
Because an animal had gotten into the power line and kind of bit down a little too hard.
Exactly. and unfortunately, those things happen. So that's an example. And of course, this equipment is not cheap.
Right.
Typically, an electric transformer, which is just a big box of metal and switches and gears and oil and all types of wonderful things, a transformer can run anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million.
Wow.
Good gracious.
To replace it. The transformers, we still have a couple of power stations, and this is something we've been doing year after year now for a while, but we still have a few left, and some of these transformers are over 40 years old.
Wow.
And like anything else, at some point
Eventually
you're going to
you're gonna
have
have
to
to-
replace
Yeah,
it. So,
yeah.
so we've got some work that we need to do, and that's about $3 million of it. And then we'll also talk about that another $3 million is something that is really interesting, and this is something that the residents will be able to actually see, and that is going through and replacing all of our street lights as well as the area lights that people have at their homes when they subscribe to that service with LED lights.
Well, hold that thought. We got to take
Yes,
a quick
absolutely.
break,
Yeah.
and then we'll get into the LED conversation and more of the numbers that you've got to present to us right after this break.
Okay.
Whether it's #1 in safety with airbags and anti-lock brakes,
Thank goodness.
or is capable of towing up to 7,000 pounds and gets 27 miles per gallon,
Or can serve as a weekend family car and still get the job done.
or even goes 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and has a 4-wheel independent suspension that hugs every corner. Don Bullock Chevrolet has the perfect car for you, so stop by and do it the better way at Don Bullock Chevrolet.
If you need a car and you have a job, OK Loans will treat you like you're more than a credit score. Come see Jay, Kenny, and Tim, and we will have you riding today. Honda, Toyota, Chevrolet, Ford, and more. Used cars, trucks, SUVs, and minivans. It's all okay at OK Loans, where we have it all. There's a vehicle waiting for you at 1920 North Westland Boulevard, adjacent to Don Bullock in Rocky Mount. Call us today at 903-0525. When the bank says no, OK Loans says yes.
PNC presents, and the city of Rocky Mount hosts Downtown Live, May 12th through September 29th on the Imperial Center Lawn, 270 Gay Street. Admission is free. Hear from groups like the Legacy Motown Review, the Tams, the Embers featuring Craig Woolard, and more. Thanks to PNC and to all the following sponsors. Doors open at 5 p.m. Music starts at 6.
E. Norman Davis & Son, Incorporated, is a family-owned third-generation full-service real estate company that specializes in residential construction. In addition to building residential homes, we buy, sell, trade, and lease properties in the Rocky Mount, Nashville, and surrounding areas. We are currently building in Weathervane Hill, Fairfield Village, and Wedgewood Commons subdivision. Our company has a reputation for building long-standing relationships with our clients and will stand behind our homes with amazing customer service long after the final papers have been signed. Contact us today at 252-937-6022 or visit us at 1228 Bethlehem Road.
My name is Chris May. I'm with Cornerstone Funeral Home. I'm a funeral director here. I'm an embalmer, and I'm also a pre-need specialist. It's 252-459-0001.
There we go.
And welcome back to the live morning show, presented as always by Don Bullock Chevrolet. This segment also brought to you in part by Rocky Mount Eye, which, as you know, is formerly Watson Eye Associates. They are now gladly accepting new patients. Doctors Robertson, High, Shepherd, and Helfton provide family vision care, the diagnosis and treatment of all medical eye conditions, including cataracts, glaucoma, and medical eye. diabetic eye. Rocky Mount's Optical Shop has a certified optician with over 20 years of experience, featuring a full line of glasses, sunglasses, and contacts, in addition to designer lines such as Michael Kors, Kate Spade, Silhouette, and Ray-Ban. They also offer select frames and lens packages starting at only $79. You can visit them at the UNC Nash Hospital campus or go online to RockyMountEye.com and mark your calendar for 2 weeks from tomorrow, June 23rd, their next frame show featuring Michael Kors from 9 to 12. And that is Rocky Mount Eye, formerly Watson Eye Associates.
All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Kenneth Hunter from the City of Rocky Mount's Budget and Evaluations Manager, and talking about what is in the next round of budget. And this is the 2016-2017 budget?
That is correct. It takes effect July 1st and goes until June 30th.
All right, so let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of the budget and talk about some numbers.
Okay. Well, as you can see here, we talked a little bit about what the total budget is. Now going more to to some of the highlights of it. First of all, and this is of course great, is that there is no property tax increase involved, and I see that we've got a little bit of a technical matter that we need to take care of.
Gotcha.
Okay. First of all, there are no property tax increases in this year's budget. We prepared, and we had planned from the very beginning to balance this budget without any property tax increases in the general fund. Also, we put this preface in there: no inside city limits utility rate increases. And what that means is, in reality, the only utility rate increase that we have has to do with outside city limit sewer customers. A couple of years ago, council decided as a policy to phase in a plan to where the sewer rates for outside customers after 4 years would become double what the inside rate is, so that they would be consistent with what we've been doing with water rates.
So let's use this as an example. So Sharpsburg, which is a separate municipality, has ties to Rocky Mount for water and sewer?
As a wholesale customer.
As a wholesale customer.
They have a separate rate class. What we're talking about is, say, and I know of a person who has his own home in Edgecombe County, but he is directly tapped on to the city sewer system and the city water system. Okay. So what that means is that he is an outside customer.
So his bill's getting ready to go up a little bit.
Yes, it'll go up. Currently his sewer rates are 150%. They will go up to 175%. Okay. And then next year they would go up to 200%. So this is a 4-year phase-in, and this only applies to sewer rates. It's not many customers. It's more about having them be in line with what we've been doing with water rates.
This is kind of like if you're a member of the YMCA, you pay $15 to use the swimming pool. If you're not a member of the YMCA, you pay $30 to use the swimming pool. So in other words, if you're a member of the city, you get a rate, and if you're not a member of the city, you get a different rate.
That is correct.
So just to use that analogy.
Right, and I just want to separate that just to make sure that people understand. There's no changes in electric rates, there's no changes in gas rates, and there's no changes for wholesale customers or for 99% of the customers who live inside the city limits with respect to their water and sewer. And we also did not adjust the stormwater fee, and we did not adjust the residential.
This is for individual customers, not the wholesale municipality. So Town of Nashville gets some of the water from Rocky Mount.
And sewer, yes.
Yeah, water, sewer, Sharpsburg. So those are going through municipalities. They're not going to see the same effect as individual residences or businesses.
That is correct.
Well, you hear all the time people like, "Oh, I'm glad that I don't live within the city limits," and I know that kind of is out there with a lot of folks. And will more things like this be done in the future to kind of offset that mentality of people not, or is that kind of what that is all about, to try to counter that idea of not wanting to live within the city limits?
I would not say that.
Okay.
What I would say is that it's about considering what is appropriate with respect to what we do as a city in terms of the services that we provide. Okay. As Clint mentioned, we do produce water and sewer. We're the only municipal water production operation in Nash County. Mm-hmm. We are the only sewer operation in Nash County, but we also in fact serve a lot of Edgecombe County as well. We serve their county systems. We have that capacity to be able to be a wholesale customer. Gotcha. What we also want to make sure though is that when it comes to the retail side, that while these operate as utilities, we do believe that in the interest of the city that they should operate in such a manner where there should be different rate structures. It's done most cities.
Right.
Our practice is not that much different than other jurisdictions
Okay.
in terms of how we do that.
Now, another important thing to look on here is that first line that says no property tax increase.
That is correct.
Now, there has been expectation that there would be this year, and that was kind of set up through some dialogue last year about projects that the city is looking to take on
correct.
over the near future. Yet there is no increase this year. Why? What's the rationale? We're happy for it, don't get me wrong. But what's the rationale for not having an increase?
Well, the property tax increase that had been discussed had to do with the DCF. And with the DCF project, it's all about the timing where we are in the project in terms of when we need the money to increase tax rates in order to be responsible for debt costs.
Right.
Originally, we thought we would be in a position that we would be paying debt now because the project would be closed. We are still working on the financing for that project, and as a result, we're not there yet.
Right.
And so, more than likely, we don't know where we will be with respect to that. What we've done this year is that the 2.5%, which generates about $1 million, it sits in an account and it's there for us to use when we need it.
So that 2.5%, which was enacted...
2.5 cents, I'm
2.5 cents was enacted in 2015-2016's budget.
That's correct.
Continues to carry over into this budget, but does not increase.
That is correct.
Okay.
And there are things that we pay for now, such as like the work we've been doing with property acquisition and some of the other costs. But the reality is that the costs really start to hit with respect then when we start paying the debt, and that's tied, of course, to our work trying to secure tax credits to reduce the overall cost of the project by using that instead of just going out and borrowing all the money,
Right.
using tax credits to help to minimize the cost of this project.
Okay. Now, the bottom description down there you have is a $20 increase to annual vehicle fees. Let's discuss what that's about and why that's the case. And I will say, having heard an explanation myself last week on this makes a lot of sense. But there may be some folks out there who are like, what is this? A, what is the sticker fee? I don't have a sticker on my car. What are you
Right.
talking about? And B, why is it going from the current $5 to a new $25 total?
Okay, well, first of all, the sticker fee, there used to be a sticker. From
Right.
my understanding, of course, I've only been in North
I
Carolina 10
remember
years.
the stickers when I was a kid.
Right, but there used
they
to
went
be
away.
Yes, and it's kind of like we had the same issue in Virginia with the inspection sticker, that ugly thing that you used to sit in the
Oh, yeah.
middle of the window.
Couldn't sit in the corner. I had to sit in the middle of the
Sat
window.
in the middle of the window. It was the most awful thing in the world, and it was like you had to sit there and really scrape hard
And
to
you
get
had
rid
to
of
have
it.
the front license plate in Virginia.
Yes, you did, and that stunk too, especially when your car didn't have a front mount on it.
Exactly.
But the reality is that this fee has been in existence for a long time, and it's been $5. And in Rocky Mount, that generates about a little over $200,000 a year in revenue. The state mandated that the most we could charge was $5. As you know, with North Carolina, with the way that the laws are written in North Carolina, we're very restricted in terms of what we can raise money from as a municipality. The state pretty much has to give us permission to decide if we can use a revenue source.
Okay.
What the state realizes, and the General Assembly, as they have gone through the variety of the reform measures that they've taken the last several years, one thing that they have specifically looked at is surface transportation. What they realize is that the revenue sources and the structure that is available to pay for the cost of the surface transportation system in the state, both what the state is responsible for, which is the interstates, the state-controlled highways that run through Rocky Mount, plus the ferries and the rail system and all that.
So let's say like US 64, US 301, the main highways, the state takes care of those.
Plus I-95
Right.
and of
But
course
the city is responsible for everything else.
yes, we're responsible really. Most of the roads, your roads in your neighborhoods, most of the other ones. Plus then there's other projects like what's been going on with these projects at Country Club as well as on Hunter Hill Road, plus the work that's being planned for 301, for Wesleyan Boulevard.
Right.
If we want to say like add sidewalks,
Right.
we have to pay for that. Plus there's other things that we have to do with respect to right-of-way issues and like utilities and such. We have costs tied to that, but that would be the case for anybody. But the reality is, the biggest thing people want is they want their roads repaved because asphalt doesn't last forever, and the reality is there's simply just not enough money.
Okay.
The state understands that. They understand that there's just not enough money for them to do what they need to do with the state-controlled roads and then be able to provide under the Powell bill the money that the local jurisdictions. So what they decided to do was they decided to extend statewide some privilege that they had given to some specific cities for only a couple of years, basically the major metro cities like Durham and Raleigh and Charlotte. And they said, we will let you increase your vehicle fee, that's the sticker fee, up to $30 with two conditions. First of all, $5 has to be allocated to transit. If you have a transit system.
So like a bus system.
Right, a bus system, which we have. We have Tar River Transit, an intra-city system. $5 has to be dedicated to that. And that's to help offset, to make sure that the municipalities are contributing to their system. We do that now.
Right.
And it's over $200, it's over the $5, what would be generated with $5 in revenue. The rest of the increase has to be allocated to surface transportation improvements. Mainly what they're expecting is road work.
So what if you are in a municipality that doesn't have public transportation?
That's an interesting question.
Okay.
I don't know.
And if you want to, and I'm not going to call them out, but there is a town in our area that is putting in the automobile sticker fee that does not have public transportation, but is planning to collect road funds from it.
I saw that in the paper, and I'm not I can't answer that question.
Well,
because,
we're not singling them out in this
right,
case,
I can't answer that question because I don't know what their circumstances are.
But you know, the law says the first $5 has to go to public transportation, and then the remaining can go to structural road improvement.
Right, and so what we realize is right now, we receive about $1.6 million from the state each year.
Okay.
Now, that money not only covers repaving, but it also covers other things that we do with respect to the roads. Fixing signals, painting roads, dealing with some landscaping issues that we're required to do by DOT standards, and a host of other things.
I'm not going to get in how many times you cut the grass.
Well, and that's a whole other issue, and that's another issue where the DOT has certain responsibilities.
I'm not getting into it. I said I wouldn't get into it.
I know. But what I'm saying is, and actually that's more like us planting flowers and doing some other things to mitigate how much grass we have to cut. But the reality is that once we take on fulfill our responsibilities, each year we have $800,000 to $850,000 available to resurface roads.
Okay.
If we went out there and bid $850,000 a year, you wouldn't get much for it. It makes more sense from an economies of scale situation right now with the limited money we have to actually take that money, then basically every 2 years go out and then get a contract.
$1.6 million basically to negotiate with.
And we actually get more out of it. What we've decided is that this $20 increase that we're proposing is going all to resurfacing. So there's an $800,000 line in the budget that shows this increase, and it is being then moved from the general fund over to the Powell Bill Fund specifically for resurfacing. What that will allow us to do now is that people are going to see that when the city goes out and repave, and sometimes the state's out there repaving,
right?
But when the city's out there repaving, they're going to see us repaving every year. So that's the intent.
So let's kind of clarify this a little bit. If I'm talking about Amherst or Sycamore Street, that is definitely the city's maintenance. Those are third-dairy roads that get paved really every 10 to 20 years for the most part.
If we're following, I mean, the fact is this is still not going to enable us to catch up. We're going to be able to stay. Hopefully, we're going to be able to stay at a point where the conditions aren't going to get worse. But obviously,
the traffic levels on those roads are also much lower. But if we're looking at a Thomas Street from Raleigh Street, if we're looking at Inglewood Road, that gets a lot more. Those roads are now having their calendar maybe moved up more frequently.
Hopefully. And the issue also is that we're also running into situations now where we're actually having to go in, and it's not just about repaving, it's about going in and taking out the road beds, because some of these roads are old and they need to be restored.
Now, for those of you who don't get that, that means you tear up the asphalt down to the dirt, and then you lay new asphalt.
There's a great process we have now called full depth reclamation, which allows us basically to go in there, shred it in, and then come back with that same material and put it in there. It's actually very affordable in the grand scheme of things.
Well, it's brilliant to watch. As a kid who likes tractors and stuff, they tear up the asphalt, they re-smelt it, basically adding new properties to it, and lay that same asphalt back down right behind it.
Yeah, Hawthorne Road was just repaved in the Westridge neighborhood just in the last couple of weeks. Notice that.
Yeah, we have a contract. We have a contract that's going on right now. We actually have an extra. They're doing some work across the way at River Drive today. But
today, the last 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, but I saw it just today. Yes, they've been doing it for 2 weeks, but they also did it today. But there's a lot of stuff going on River Drive right now.
Right.
But we've been really focused on. I mean, this is a big deal. We realize that this is a major concern of the residents. This is something that they want to see. And it's just simply a matter that we've got to find the money to do it. Yeah. And what this does also is that it applies to every vehicle. And in reality, when you think about how roads are used, this is the way to do it. Because really, vehicles, not saying every vehicle uses the roads equally, but it's not a matter of value. I mean, it's a matter of the vehicles themselves. So this is a way to distribute that cost in a fashion, one, the state has given us the permission to do it, but also in a manner that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, and to wrap this up, we do need to go to our next break, but this goes back to people who complain about potholes and roads not being resurfaced and so forth. There is now an opportunity for the city to catch up on that and to improve our roads, and to me that sounds like a good thing. And granted, you're going to pay $20 extra per year per vehicle.
Right.
That's the clarification. So if you have 2 cars, that's $40 extra that you're paying for. But that is in your property tax bill. So that comes due when your property taxes are due.
Well, actually, it comes due it used to, but now because of tax and tag together, you pay it when you pay your title. Because I mean, all that's now been bundled together. Right. It's actually helped improve collections for the county and for the city.
Right.
But it's a little different now in the fact that it used to be, yes, when you paid your bill, it was itemized on your bill.
Right.
But now it's going to be paid when you pay when you pay the state.
All right. We got to take one more break. When we come back, Fred is going to have our last look at the weather and start to look at how hot it's going to be this weekend. We'll see what that's going to be all about. And then we'll finish our conversation with Ken Hunter, the Budget and Evaluations Manager for the City of Rocky Mount.
This summer, Krispy Kreme asks you the oldest question. Are you a red or are you a blue? Decide between watermelon and blue raspberry chillers this summer only at Krispy Kreme at 969 North Wesleyan Boulevard in Rocky Mount.
You need a car and you have a job. OK Loans will treat you like you're more than a credit score. Come see Jay, Kenny, and Tim, and we will have you riding today. Honda, Toyota, Chevrolet, Ford, and more. Used cars, trucks, SUVs, and minivans. It's all okay at OK Loans, where we have it all. There's a vehicle waiting for you at 1920 North Wesleyan Boulevard, adjacent to Don Bullock in Rocky Mount. Call us today at 903-0525. When the bank says no, OK Loans says yes.
Ready again as usual. Man, it's excitement in there. It's pure excitement. Exclusive stuff, exclusive blazers, straight from Sicily, Palermo. We open every day, Monday through Sunday. You come down here and we're going to take care of you. I don't follow the trend, I create the trend. So come to PJ's and be a trendsetter. Thank you.
Sears, your hometown store, is here to help you get ready for spring and summer. Our full line of push or ride mowers and weed trimmers will help you keep your lawn looking great. And a new outdoor grill is a perfect way to entertain and show off your new lawn. And as always, we carry the premier appliance brands like Kenmore and Whirlpool, and Tools by Craftsman, America's favorite tool brand. So come see us. We have the parts and service to help you, and 2 locations to serve you in Lewisburg and Rocky Mount. Sears, the name says it all.
Barrington's Auto Works and Collision Center is a full-service repair facility and collision center. Engine and transmission repair or replacement, tune-ups, brakes, and air conditioning. We have the latest computer diagnostic equipment, and we are an NC inspection station. We also accept extended warranties. Our brand new body shop is a complete state-of-the-art collision center, offering frame straightening, lifetime paint guarantees, and free computerized estimates. We use all BASF paint products that are original equipment on over 80% of today's car manufacturers, foreign and domestic. Visit the only independently owned one-stop shop for complete auto care at Tharrington's Auto Works and Collision Center, 1212 Construction Drive in Rocky Mount, and let us take care of all of your car's needs.
By Fred's Food Club, the home of rock bottom prices where you never need a membership, with 3 locations to serve you in Rocky Mount, Wilson, and Greenville. Locally owned and operated by Adams Wholesale Company, now celebrating our 75th anniversary.
Welcome back. Time to take a final look at our weather this morning. And the current conditions, 68 degrees, the dew point at 57, relative humidity 68%, winds are northwest at 6, and the barometer 29.82 inches. Well, as we go through the rest of this week, we're going to see humidities lower than what they have been, and the temperatures will be cooler than what they have been, and the relative humidity and the temperatures together will make it seem a lot more comfortable, at least for the first part of the next couple of days. Then, as we get into the weekend, we're going to see temperatures go up into the low 90s and maybe even the mid 90s as we get into Sunday. Let's take a look at the satellite picture now, and we'll see that the dry air is really moving into North Carolina and South Carolina. Right in here, you can see the dark presentation there. That's the high pressure moving down from the Ohio River Valley and into the Carolinas and as far south as Georgia. And then we see that front still draping across Florida right through here. This is the front that steered Tropical Storm Colin on out to sea. Well, let's take a look now at the forecast for today. Sunny with a high of 81. Tonight clear, a low of 54. Thursday sunny, a high of 81. Thursday night clear, a low of 58. Friday sunny with a high of 85. Friday night mostly cloudy, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms late with a low of 67. Saturday sunny, a high of 91. Saturday night partly cloudy, a low of 72. And Sunday will be sunny, a high of 92. And Sunday night partly cloudy with a low of 64. Looking across the country yesterday, the warmest temperature in Death Valley, California, 118 degrees, and the low 32 degrees in Togo, Minnesota. The most rainfall yesterday, 5.08 inches, that was in St. Petersburg, Florida. Currently 68 degrees, that's your local weather.
Appreciate that, Fred, very much. And don't forget, this segment also brought to you in part by Nationwide Insurance. Brian Hudson has his office over in Nashville, and he would appreciate your phone call. His number is 459-2613. Give Brian a call today. Let him give you some quotes, go over what you have, compare. Always good to check and see what other options are available. So give him a call. His office is located near downtown Nashville. Phone number, once again, 459-2613. Nationwide Insurance, Brian Hudson office. We protect what matters most.
All right, as we wrap up the Don Bullock Chevrolet live morning show here on WHIG, we're going to basically give the bulk of this time over to Ken Hunter, who is the Budget and Evaluations Manager for, I say evaluations, it's Evaluation Manager for the City of Rocky Mount, and kind of talk about the rest of the budget details. So Ken, it's all yours.
Okay, first I want to just take this brief time. A lot of people ask where their money goes to with respect to when they pay their taxes. We do get money from a variety of sources. Even in the general fund, we have rents and of course the solid waste fee and some other things. But what I would like to point out is that for every dollar of tax revenue that we collect, 56 cents or almost 56 cents goes to public safety. And what we mean by that is fire and police operations. I'll also make a mention that the one position that we are adding in this year's budget is a property and evidence officer, or evidence and property officer. That staff person is primarily going to be tasked with the implementation and oversight of our body-worn camera program in the police department. This is something that that a lot of cities are going to. It's an expectation of the public, and it's mutually beneficial. It helps us, it benefits us, but it also benefits the public. So everybody is assisted with respect to this program.
Okay.
You also see 15 cents goes to Parks and Recreation, 8 cents goes to debt service, which is actually pretty low for a city of our size compared to some other cities out there. They actually see more. And as you see down the list, and as you see there, the 2.5 cents that's allocated for the DCF.
So that's the bottom line down there, DCF right there.
Also, just to show you, people ask about the DCF and about the reasons, one of the reasons for it. And we just want to talk about this because tourism has been one of the positives in our economy since the recession.
Right.
And we want to talk, and we put this in the budget document. I just wanted to mention this. You see those two little lines that go that are vertical. Those kind of are time marks. One is in 2006 when the Imperial Center opened, but more importantly in 2007 when the sports complex opened. And the blue line shows you the tax revenue that's been generated, and this is for both Nash and Edgecombe County. The state provides this information, and then the orange line below it is the revenue impact in terms of actual spending activity. And what you can see is we have seen some significant growth, that we were able to quickly come out of recession in the tourism industry. And a lot of that we do believe was driven by the sports complex, because while we have seen some hotels, in reality, the sports complex was the last significant investment that's been made locally to help drive tourism. There really has not been anything since the sports complex to come along to really drive tourism.
Well, and it's been noted what an amazing impact that has had on our local economy, and obviously those type of figures and numbers are being used to in relation to the event center downtown, and looking at the sports aspect of things as being a big thing today.
So and we certainly are showing it from the standpoint that it is having a benefit, and it's part of our justification for moving forward with the DCF. Want to take a little bit of time. One of the things that we do also talk about in the budget, and it's something that has come up, is what's called the GAP payment, which is, of course, the payment that we're responsible for as a city as a result of state law from the merger of Nash County Schools with Rocky Mount Schools back in the early 90s. And it's the difference between the per pupil allocation that is paid by Nash County compared to Edgecombe County. The top line, the blue line, is the Nash County allocation since 2008. Now, what this really is it's the prior year's allocation, because it's an arrears payment. We only have the information for what they've done in the prior year.
So you're paying the year after.
Exactly. Okay. Which is why there's some fluctuation in terms of what the payment is, because if you're paying, you have to either make up what you didn't pay the prior year, or you get credited for what you did pay, for what you paid over. But as you can see, in the last couple of years, that red line for Edgecombe County, you can see that they have made a sizable commitment, partly through taxes and partly through some other factors, to actually significantly reduce that gap payment. Such that, as you can see right now, as we're going into 2017, it's less than $140 per student. That's a pretty significant reduction in that. That's an indication that they are making progress. And if everything works as we hope it does, if the phase out can occur, or where they can be done to zero in 4 years, that they are in a position to be able to do it. They've still got some work to do in order to get there.
Now, a question on that real quick, if you go back to that for a second.
Yeah, sure.
To say that's eliminated, and say that averages out, if you look at it, we're going back to 2008, let's just say it averages out at, say, $250. Let's just kind of ballpark.
A little less than that, but yeah.
Yeah, ballpark it at $250. That $250 times the 2,000-ish students in there, where does that money then go to in the city? Does that go back into the general fund for operations?
It would would stay in the utilities. Because remember, we cannot use tax revenues to pay for it.
Right.
The state prevented us from being able to do that, so we use utility revenues to pay for it. So whatever the amount of money is, and this year we benefited from a significant a significant overpayment in fiscal year 2015.
Right.
We had a significant overpayment in fiscal year 2015. As you can see, we paid over $800,000 in 2015. It's hard to see it on the TV,
Right.
but you can see that's the highest. It's the highest column there. 2016, because of a significant discount applied from prior years, we only had to pay $127,000
Right.
per utility customer. That was less than $4 per customer. This year, we kind of balance out a little bit, which means we're going to be paying about $357,000, which comes out to less than $1 a month per utility customer. So, and that's across multiple utilities. It's not all paid for by the electric fund. It's paid for by electric, gas, water. So we are now in a position. So yes, that money's going to go back into the utility funds. Whether or not it's really going to have any effect on changing rates is unlikely, because in terms of our total utility budget, it's not as much necessarily. It's not making an argument about whether or not we should do it. That's just simply looking at the financial effect.
Is that gap billing going to continue? In other words, is that dollar per month per customer going to continue to be billed, or did that billing go away?
Well, it's not something that they notice in the bill to begin with. I mean, it's an expense that we have that we're responsible for, but it's not something that's itemized in their bill.
Okay.
We're showing what the impact is on each customer. And what would happen is that money would be available for other things for the utilities to do.
Okay.
The other thing that just to point out, this is just a video that shows the difference, and it actually comes out pretty well. I was a little concerned, but it did come out very well, showing the difference in the LED lighting, the before and after. And as
Taylor
you can,
Street, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks like Taylor.
It might be. But as you can see, this is a project. This is kind of like our pilot on this. And people who live in the Duke territory have seen this, the Duke Progress territory. I've seen it in my neighborhood in West Street. And I know there's some people in Nashville and some other areas that have seen it in the West. It does significantly brighten up.
And these are LED light bulbs. So they're going to last significantly longer than mercury bulbs, and they cost less to replace because they last longer.
That's correct. You also don't have the situation of them timing out or having heat issues during the night where they shut off for a while, and you're like, okay, where did my lights go?
And then you wait 30 minutes for them to warm
exactly
to the color.
Exactly. There's some other work that we'll have to do with respect to looking at making sure that trees are trimmed and other things. But the reality is that the quality of the lighting that people are going to have in terms of what it's there for, which is to keep roads illuminated, to provide some, it does provide a safety and security enhancement.
Right.
That is going to be there, and that's really what's important with it. It's the reason why we're doing this project. It is really important, and the good news for it is that the return on investment is going. The reason why we're going ahead and doing it all now, as opposed to stretching it out and trying to do it over a longer period of time, is return on investment is extremely good.
Right.
We're going to see positive return within a short period of time, about 5 or 6 years. We should be in good shape.
To clarify, the City of Rocky Mount is its own customer. You have to pay yourself for the power that you use to some degree. And that
includes with street lights, and we also, of course, pay for the street lights that are in the Progress territories and the others.
Right. So in this case, this is going to save the city money in terms of operating the lights.
Yes.
All right.
And so I think that's all I had.
Okay.
If there's any other final questions y'all want to do, but I think we're right on.
We're
right on the time.
We're bumping on the time.
That was perfect timing.
Ken, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
And sharing this information with us. And so again, if somebody has questions, wants to look more at the budget in more detail, how can they get more information on it?
Once again, as I said before, they can either go to the city clerk's office where we keep a copy of the budget, a physical copy, or they can go online to RockyMountNC.com, click on government, bring up the budget office, and there's a couple of other links, but they'll be able to find the documentation.
All right. Well, we appreciate you watching the Don Bullock Chevrolet Live morning show here this morning. And again, definitely appreciate you taking the time out to spend an hour with us to go over the City of Rocky Mount's budget. We have given some criticism in the past to the City of Rocky Mount. Me? Who? What? But we really appreciate them offering this opportunity to kind of review this and give the people out there a clear understanding of what's going into the budget. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we hope you have a good morning. And as I like to say, and this is even more appropriate with the City of Rocky Mount here, may the stoplights be ever in your favor.
Have a great Wednesday.